easy. Breathe for half a second. This is the moment they land in, convinced you are finished. They watched you lose everything. Not quietly, not gracefully. They watched it happen in public, in slow motion, with their arms crossed and their mouths already rehearsing the eulogy. They watched your name fall out of rooms. They watched doors lock themselves. They watched people who swore loyalty suddenly forget your face. They watched resources dry up, timelines collapse, plans evaporate like smoke. And in their heads, the story was over. Roll credits. You were supposed to disappear right there, right in the wreckage, right where the light abandoned you. But something went wrong with their narrative. Because while they were counting what you lost, they never counted what you became. While they were tracking the collapse, they missed the recalibration. While they were laughing at the ashes, they didn't notice you memorizing the pattern of the fire. That's the paradox they still can't explain. You didn't win by avoiding the fall. You won because the fall stripped you down to something unrecognizable. Something they didn't have a file for. Something that doesn't beg, doesn't rush, doesn't perform pain for sympathy. You see, losing everything doesn't make you weak. It makes you illegible. And illegible people terrify systems built on prediction. They thought pain would turn you small. They thought humiliation would turn you quiet. They thought deprivation would make you desperate enough to crawl back and ask permission to exist. But pain didn't break you. It reorganized you. It burned the soft illusions off your bones. It taught you how to move without applause, how to breathe without approval, how to operate when nobody is watching, which is exactly when you become dangerous. This is where the duality snaps into place. You were the saint when you believed in fairness. You were the angel when you played by rules that were never written for your survival. And then they dragged you through hell and expected you to come back begging for light. Instead, you learned how darkness works. You learned its timing, its silence, its patience. You learned that demons aren't loud, they're precise. And now they don't know which version of you they're dealing with, because you stopped advertising your intentions. They watched you lose everything, but they never saw you let go. That's the part that keeps them awake. You let go of needing to be understood. You let go of explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You let go of the fantasy that justice arrives on schedule. And when you let go, something snapped into alignment. Your moves stopped being emotional. Your silence stopped being empty. Your patience stopped being passive. You became unpredictable, not chaotic, not reckless, unreadable. And unreadable beats powerful every single time. They still don't understand how you won. They're looking for a comeback story, a lucky break, a secret ally, a hidden advantage. They want a reason that keeps the world safe and logical. But the truth is uglier and sharper than that. You won because you stopped trying to win the way they recognize. You won by surviving long enough to evolve. You won by letting the old version of you die without a funeral. And don't get it twisted. This wasn't some clean rebirth. This was brutal. This was lonely. This was nights where the dark spoke back, and mornings where hope felt like a scam. There was learning to sit with the voice that asks if it would be easier to disappear. This was choosing not to, not out of optimism, but out of defiance. Pure, cold defiance. The kind that doesn't announce itself. The kind that just keeps going. That's why they're uneasy now. Because people who lose everything and still stand don't operate on the same moral math. You're not motivated by fear anymore. You've already lived inside it. You're not seduced by promises. You've watched them break. You're not impressed by threats. You've already survived the worst-case scenario. What do you leverage against someone who has nothing left to lose but everything to build? They can't decide whether you're a miracle or a mistake, an angel who endured or a psychopath who adapted too well. And that uncertainty drives them insane. They want to categorize you so they can neutralize you, but you don't fit. You're the contradiction walking, soft-spoken with a blade hidden in the calm, empathetic but no longer exploitable, kind but never confused again. Here's the part they'll never say out loud. Watching you win after losing everything forces them to confront their own fragility. Because if you can be stripped down to nothing and still rise, then all the comfort they built their identity on suddenly looks flimsy. Your existence becomes an accusation. Your survival becomes a mirror. And most people would rather call you dangerous than admit they're afraid of what you represent. You didn't just survive the collapse. You learned how to build in the rubble. You learned which instincts lie and which ones whisper truth. You learned that timing beats speed, silence beats noise, and restraint beats rage. You learned how to wait without rotting, how to sharpen yourself without bleeding everywhere, how to smile without revealing a damn thing. That's why the win doesn't look loud. That's why there was no parade when it happened. The win is internal first, structural, permanent. The kind of win that doesn't need witnesses because it rewrites how you move through the world. They expected a broken person. They got a calibrated one. So when they look at you now, there's confusion in their eyes. Because the version of you they buried didn't stay buried. But the version that came back isn't interested in revenge, explanations, or validation. You're not here to prove them wrong. You're here because you endured long enough to outgrow the game entirely. They watched you lose everything, and somehow, impossibly, you still won. Not by becoming louder, not by becoming crueler, but by becoming something they can't predict, can't control, and can't erase. And that realization, that's the part that keeps them watching. And here's the part that never makes it into their conversations, never shows up in their post-mortems or whispered breakdowns. When you lost everything, you didn't just survive it. You studied it. You watched who vanished. You watched who pretended not to notice. You watched who suddenly found morals, excuses, distance. You memorized the exact moment sympathy expired and convenience took over. And you didn't rage. You didn't beg. You didn't expose anyone. You just filed it away. Quietly. Permanently. Because loss teaches faster than loyalty ever could. That's when the transformation stopped being visible and started being lethal. You learned how people really move when the lights go out. You learned how quickly principles melt under pressure. You learned that most alliances are rented, not owned. And once you see that, truly see it, you stop expecting warmth from cold systems. You stop confusing proximity with loyalty. You stop handing your heart to structures designed to extract, not protect. They thought you losing everything would empty you. Instead, it emptied the noise. It removed the dead weight. It burned away the version of you that needed reassurance to function. And what stepped forward afterward wasn't bitter. It was precise, calm, focused. You didn't come back louder. You came back sharper. That's why your silence unsettles them now. Because silence used to mean weakness. Silence used to mean shame. Silence used to mean you were waiting to be rescued. But this silence. This silence is loaded. This is the quiet of someone who already survived the worst case and realized the sky didn't fall. This is the quiet of someone who knows exactly how much damage the truth can do and doesn't need to use it. They keep waiting for you to flinch, waiting for you to explain, waiting for you to snap, confess, collapse, apologize for still existing, but you don't. You move like someone who already died once and came back without fear of dying again. And people can feel that. Animals feel it. Rooms feel it. Systems feel it. Because here's the thing they never anticipated. When you lose everything, fear loses its leverage. What do they threaten you with now? Loss. You already lived inside that crater. Isolation. You already learned how to breathe alone. Failure. You rebuilt your identity without success as a requirement. You crossed the line they used to control people, and you crossed it alone. That's when you stopped being manageable. You started choosing unpredictability over permission. You stopped reacting on schedule. You stopped giving your enemies the satisfaction of watching you hurt. You stopped chasing clarity for people committed to misunderstanding you. You stopped fighting battles designed to drain you and started choosing moments that compound quietly over time. That's not madness. That's evolution. They don't understand how you can still smile, how you can still be calm, how you can still move forward without dragging the wreckage behind you like proof. They assume winning requires spectacle, dominance, revenge, but your win is subtler, and that's what terrifies them. Because it means you're not trying to punish the past. You're building a future that doesn't include it. And somewhere deep down, they know it. They know you saw the truth about them when you were at your lowest. They know you noticed who enjoyed watching you fall. They know you clocked who benefited from your absence. And the fact that you didn't explode, didn't expose, didn't beg for acknowledgement, that restraint rewrote the power dynamic. Because now they don't know what you'll do with what you know. You're not hunting them. You're not chasing closure. You're not demanding justice from a world that already showed you how little it cares. You're moving forward with something far more dangerous than anger: clarity. That's the angel-demon paradox they can't reconcile. You still have empathy, but you're no longer naive. You still have warmth, but it's selective. You still have kindness, but it's armored. You didn't turn evil. You turned aware. And awareness is the one upgrade they can't confiscate. They watched you lose everything, expecting you to crawl back smaller, quieter, grateful for scraps. Instead, you came back with boundaries that don't bend, eyes that don't plead, and a presence that doesn't explain itself. You're no longer auditioning for approval. You're no longer afraid of being misunderstood. You've seen what understanding costs, and you decided it wasn't worth your soul. So now, when you walk into rooms, there's a pause, not because you demand attention, but because your energy doesn't seek it. People sense that you're no longer here to prove anything. You're here because you survived something that would have erased them, and survival without bitterness confuses people more than rage ever could. They thought your story ended when everything was taken from you. What they didn't realize is that was the chapter where the story finally stopped lying. You didn't win because the world suddenly became fair. You won because you became real. You won because you stopped needing outcomes to validate your existence. You won because you learned how to stand in uncertainty without folding. And now they're watching again. But this time, they're not smiling. This time, They're trying to understand what you are. And the truth is, you're not what survives the storm. You're what the storm leaves behind. Stay with me right here, because this is the part they never prepare for. The part no one warns them about when they celebrate someone's collapse. When you lose everything and don't disappear, you don't come back human in the way they expect. You come back calibrated. You come back with a nervous system that has already touched the bottom and realized it didn't die. You come back with eyes that no longer chase safety in people, titles, applause, or outcomes. And that shift, that's irreversible. They keep assuming your strength must be performative, that you're pretending. That one bad day will crack you open and spill the old version of you back onto the floor. They wait for tears, for bitterness, for a public breakdown that lets them feel justified. But you don't give it to them, because the breakdown already happened, privately, brutally, when no one was watching, and you rebuilt yourself without witnesses. That's why you move differently now. You don't rush toward opportunity. You let it reveal itself. You don't overshare. You observe. You don't threaten. You let people underestimate you and document their own mistakes. They mistake your restraint for weakness, and that's their final miscalculation. Because when someone has lost everything, truly lost it, they stop being controlled by urgency. You're not frantic anymore. You're not desperate to be chosen. You're not scared of being left out. You already know what absence feels like. You already know how silence stretches. You already know how cold it gets when support evaporates. And once you know that, once you've lived it, fear loses its teeth. They don't understand how dangerous calm can be. Rage is loud. Rage is predictable. Rage announces itself. Calm just watches. Calm waits. Calm lets people expose themselves while believing they're in control. Calm is what happens when the saint and the psychopath finally make peace inside the same body. You still care, but you no longer sacrifice yourself to prove it. You still feel, but you don't bleed in public anymore. That's the evolution pain gives you when it doesn't kill you. You didn't come back asking for fairness. You came back understanding leverage. You didn't come back demanding love. You came back with discernment. You didn't come back trying to restore what was lost. You came back ready to build something that doesn't collapse when the weather changes. They watched you lose everything and assumed it stripped you of power. But power doesn't come from having things. It comes from knowing you can survive without them. From knowing you can be misjudged, abandoned, humiliated, erased, and still wake up the next day with your spine intact. That kind of resilience rewires you. You stop explaining your motives. You stop chasing recognition. You stop negotiating with people who benefit from your confusion. You become selective with your energy like it's currency, because now you know its value. And here's the part that truly unsettles them. You didn't harden into cruelty. You didn't become loud, reckless, or vindictive. You didn't turn into the monster they could point to and say, "See, we were right." You stayed composed, measured, human, and that robs them of the narrative they need to feel clean about what they did or didn't do when you were falling. Your continued existence becomes evidence. Evidence that their abandonment didn't end you. Evidence that their indifference didn't define you. Evidence that their expectations were shallow and wrong. That's why some of them avoid your eyes now. Because when they look at you, they see the version of themselves that wouldn't have survived what you did. And that comparison hurts more than any accusation you could ever throw. You didn't just win materially or externally. You won internally, structurally, permanently. You won the moment you stopped needing the world to confirm your worth. You won the moment you realized you could carry your own weight without collapsing. You won the moment you chose growth over explanation. They thought losing everything would end your story. What it actually did was remove the distractions that kept you from becoming precise. And now every move you make carries weight. Every silence has intention. Every choice compounds quietly in your favor. You're no longer reactive. You're strategic without being cruel. You're empathetic without being exploitable. You're grounded without being stagnant. And that balance, that contradiction, is what makes you impossible to categorize. They keep trying to decide if you're broken or blessed, if you're healed or dangerous, if you're humble or hiding something lethal beneath the surface. And the truth is, you're all of it. You're what happens when someone walks through hell without losing their conscience, but also without keeping their illusions. You're what happens when pain teaches intelligence instead of bitterness. You're what happens when loss sharpens perception instead of hollowing it out. They watched you lose everything. They stayed to watch you disappear, and instead, they're watching you stand there now, quiet, intact, untouchable, wondering how the hell they misjudged you this badly. And here's where it closes, right where they never expected you to arrive. You don't need revenge. You don't need apologies. You don't even need acknowledgement, because the final victory isn't external, it's existential. You are no longer living on their terms, reacting to their judgments, orbiting their approval. You stepped out of the gravity well when everything was stripped away, and you discovered something terrifyingly liberating. You can exist without their permission. That's why your presence feels heavier now, not louder, heavier, because it's rooted, because it's earned, because it's not asking to be let in. You're not trying to be impressive. You're not trying to be understood. You're not trying to be forgiven for surviving. You're just here, fully formed, fully awake, fully aware of what you can endure. They watched you lose everything and assumed that meant you lost yourself. What actually happened is you met yourself, without costumes, without cushioning, without lies. You met the part of you that doesn't collapse when the world withdraws its affection. You met the part of you that keeps breathing when hope goes quiet. You met the part of you that doesn't need witnesses to keep going. And once you meet that part, you never unlearn it. You don't panic the way you used to. You don't beg the way you used to. You don't fear endings the way you used to, because you already lived the ending they threatened you with, and you survived it. That's the win they can't undo. You carry both light and dark now, but they're integrated. The saint learned boundaries. The demon learned restraint. The angel learned how to descend without losing itself. The monster learned empathy without weakness. And that balance makes you stable in a way chaos can't touch. So let them keep watching. Let them keep guessing. Let them keep trying to explain you with old language that doesn't apply anymore. You're not here to satisfy their understanding. You're here because you earned the right to exist on your own terms. They saw you lose everything. They waited for you to vanish. But you didn't disappear. You adapted, you sharpened, you endured, and that quiet, irreversible transformation, that's the real victory. You didn't just survive the collapse. You outgrew the world that thought it could break you.